Hi, and welcome to Anne's Family Recipe. Today I'm doing a Q&A video in honor of reaching 5,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. I thought it would be a fun way for you to get to know me a little bit better, so I reached out through YouTube and my Instagram, which is at Anne's Family Recipe, and I asked for you to submit your questions. So I have some really good ones to answer for you today. Okay, so my first question is, what is my absolute favorite pumpkin spice flavored item? And I am a pretty big pumpkin spice fan, although I do not like pumpkin spice lattes. Sorry to the majority of people in the world. But my absolute favorite pumpkin spice flavored food would be my wedding cake. My husband and I got married in October 10 years ago, and we had a pumpkin spice wedding cake. It was so moist and delicious. It had a cream cheese filling and then a white chocolate buttercream frosting on the outside. And the baker from the country club where we had our reception made the exterior of the cake mimic the same way the fabric was on my wedding dress. It was just so simple but gorgeous. I absolutely loved it. It was definitely the best wedding cake I've ever eaten. Next question is, what is my favorite dish to make for the holidays? So I never really host any holiday aside from, I guess, Easter this past year. I don't think we went anywhere. But typically I travel to family and I just bring a side dish. My go-to is the Pioneer Woman's Soul Sweet Taters recipe. That's what she calls it, but it's a sweet potato casserole and it is so delicious. It's very sweet. Of course, if you've been here for any amount of time, you know that I have a sweet tooth, if not all sweet teeth. I love sweet, so it's kind of like half dessert, half side dish. There's, you know, the toasted marshmallows on top. There's lots of, it's either cream or half and half, or maybe it's just milk, but there's definitely a richness to the casserole. There's eggs in it, there's vanilla extract, there's cinnamon, brown sugar. It is just so, so delicious. So I definitely always bring that. Actually, thinking about it, I don't think she uses marshmallows. I think she uses a pecan brown sugar crumble on top. And usually I'll do half of that on one side and marshmallows on the other, just to please everyone's palates. I'm trying to think of anything else I like to make. My mom's chocolate chip cookie pie is incredible. Typically, she's in charge of bringing that, but if I'm going to my husband's family's house, then I would bring that with me. And I will link to that recipe in my description box below because I have made that here in my channel and it is so easy and super delicious. Okay, so somebody asked, do I want to have any more children? And the answer is yes, I do. I already have 4 kids, ages 8 to 2. I have 3 boys and a girl. And generally speaking, my husband and I are open to having as many children as God wants us to have. So if 4 is our number, we love all our kids dearly, but we would love to have more. I would love to have another little girl, but of course, boy or girl, we'll love them the same. And my husband and I both came from relatively big families. I'm one of 5 kids and he's one of 6. I just think it feels really natural and right for us to have a lot of kiddos growing up together. The funny thing to me about this question is, just thinking through this past year, I think if any of my friends had to bet on which couple that they know would get pregnant during this whole COVID quarantine, they would all bet on me and my husband, just because it seems like I'm always pregnant and ready to have a baby. But I had a surgery this past May on my leg. I have some problems with my veins, which have gotten progressively worse with each pregnancy. So in fact, after I had Andrew, 4 days after I had Andrew, I was back in the emergency room because I had all these little blood clots in my leg and I could barely even walk and it hurt really bad. Luckily, it was all superficial, but I was starting to get those same kind of problems back in January of this year, where like by the end of the day, I could barely walk up the steps. I was like limping up the steps because it hurt so badly, and I was not pregnant at the time. So I kind of realized, oh, this is getting worse even without being pregnant. And of course, it's always exacerbated by pregnancies and we want to have more kids, so I decided to do something about it. So I had an ablation procedure, which is so wild. Basically, they laser the vein out of my leg, and you're not allowed to get pregnant for 6 months after the procedure, because the way the woman's body changes throughout the pregnancy process, it would actually reverse the surgical procedure. So then I'd still continue having all these problems with that vein in my leg. So we have not gotten pregnant during that time. I think my follow-up appointment, my 6-month mark, will be in November. So we're waiting to get pregnant until then or after. So I'll keep you posted if there are any more children on the way in the future. And in case you're curious, if you want a little bit more specific information, my husband and I practice NFP, so look it up. Back to a food-related question. Someone asked what inspired my love of food. So this goes back to my childhood. I was someone who watched Food Network constantly, to the point where there were episodes of Everyday Italian with Giada De Laurentiis and 30-Minute Meals with Rachel Ray that I knew by heart. I could watch them over and over and I could quote the entire episode. So, which is probably really weird, but that's what I love to watch. Especially on Saturdays, there'd be a block from, let's say, like 9 to noon, and I just loved watching all those shows back to back to back, because I was really into not so much the competitive shows or the behind the scenes shows as much as just cooking, and that's when they did a nice chunk of shows right in a row of all different really wonderful cooking shows. So that's where this began. Also, my mom is an excellent cook. Basically every meal we had was home cooked, but my dad has a pretty picky palate, to put it lightly, and so there were definitely a lot of meals that were in the rotation, kind of. So if we ever got to go out to eat, it was such a treat because I got to try new flavors. For example, garlic. I mentioned this, I think, in the very first video I ever filmed for my YouTube channel about spaghetti sauce. I never ate garlic growing up because my dad was an orthodontist for many, many years, and he chose not to eat garlic because he didn't want to have garlic breath when he was working over his patients. So my mom never cooked with garlic, and then once he retired, he didn't really have a taste for garlic anymore, so she continued to not cook with any garlic. So that was such a treat when I would go out to eat and have something with garlic. Just my eyes were open to this incredible flavor, and now I use that all the time in my cooking. Now, the second part of this is when I went to college, I never lived in the dorms. I lived off campus in an apartment for the first couple years with one of my siblings, and then beyond that with a roommate. But nonetheless, I had to learn how to cook because I didn't have a meal plan. So when I was in college, my mom gifted me a bunch of subscriptions to food magazines, all different kinds of recipe magazines. So that was where I got a lot of my inspiration and ideas, 15 years ago when I really started having to cook for myself. Of course, nowadays we have Pinterest and YouTube and Google, all these food blogs online, so many different resources at our fingertips to find amazing new recipes. But at the time, I kind of learned as I went along, both through watching the Food Network and then all of these food magazines. And the third part to that answer would be that I love to travel, and I was very blessed to be able to travel a lot, kind of in my late teens and early 20s, all over the world. So I was introduced to a lot of new foods that way too, and that sort of expanded my palate, not just through watching it on TV, but actually experiencing it in real life. So I've tried to incorporate some of those flavors into things that I make for my family to this day. Okay, one of my friends asked, when is my next YouTube concert with my husband? So if you didn't know, I enjoy singing. My husband plays guitar, and we are a little acoustic duo known as man and wife. So over the summer during quarantine, actually probably the spring too, we did 2 or 3 concerts, I can't remember, that we filmed on my channel. It was all kind of 80s, 90s, and today pop covers, maybe even some 60s and 70s too thrown in there. We like our oldies. But it's a little bit tricky with the legality here on YouTube. Moving forward, we're probably not going to do any more concerts like that, at least on this channel. We might create another channel for man and wife. I know I've been saying that for months, but we have a bunch of original songs too, so we could start posting those and sharing those with you. If that's something you're interested in, give this video a thumbs up, maybe comment below. We could do some more cover songs, but it's a little bit tricky because YouTube has changed their policies. They used to have a song library where you could actually go and check if it was kind of cool to cover the song, even though whenever I did one of those YouTube concerts, I'd get a dozen emails saying, you're currently singing copyrighted material, FYI, but there was no other repercussion beyond that. But just to make sure that I don't get any, negative hits against my channel, for lack of a better way of explaining it, but just to keep my channel growing and going in a positive direction. We're probably not going to do any more here, but of course I'll keep you posted if and when the Man and Wife channel gets up and running, and then you can hear us sing some more music there. Last question for today is, how do I stay in such great shape when I'm eating all of this delicious food? Well, first of all, thank you to the person who asked that question. It's funny because you see like me from the waist up, the bottom half of me is always hidden by my little kitchen island. So there's a little bit of deception and mystery there as far as my body shape is concerned. But more kind of practically speaking, I actually really do enjoy exercising. I love to run. So I try to run like probably 3 or 4 times a week, just a mile or 2 at a time. But especially I love running outside during the fall. That's the best time of year, or like the summertime around dusk. I know that's super specific, but I love that. And we have a beautiful park near our home, so there's lots of trails and there's a track where I can run. So love running, I love dancing. I'm a dance teacher part-time, so that keeps me active 1 night a week. I'm on my feet for 3 hours teaching ballet to all different age groups. Also, regarding my eating, I will make anything. I will eat anything. I don't ever limit myself. I have never dieted before in my life, and I never plan to unless I develop some sort of allergy or something to a food. But I do eat small portions. That kind of helps me keep things under control. Also, I really don't drink a lot. I'm not opposed to drinking alcohol, but I maybe have, I don't know, 10 drinks a year, let's say, because I will forever and always save my calories for food, more specifically dessert. So yeah, you won't see me drinking. That's another way. I basically only drink water on a day-to-day basis. And I've been trying to have more of a water intake lately. I know that's kind of everybody's thing, whether it's a New Year's resolution or just any time. It's like, I need to hydrate more, I need to drink more water. And I really have been trying that. And it definitely helps. It kind of curbs my appetite a little bit. And yeah, it keeps me hydrated and going throughout the day. So those are all of your questions. Thank you so much for submitting those. If you thought of something as I was speaking that you want to ask me about, type it out in the comments below. I might just answer it there, or I can save it for a future Q&A video. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel. I have some great videos coming up. My husband and I just got back today from a trip to Niagara Falls. So I have a really long, I'm assuming it's going to be vlog coming all about our trip. I also have to do part 2 of my pork loin experiment. I'm trying to find a really delicious pork loin recipe that is nice and juicy and tender. I know I'm doing a pie collaboration coming up in about a month or so. That's going to be really good. I think I'm going to make banoffee pie, and if you don't know what that is, subscribe and stay tuned. With a pumpkin spice twist, bringing this Q&A full circle back to my first question, I have an incredible recipe for homemade pumpkin spice whipped cream. I will link that video in the description box below, and I'm going to use that on my banoffee pie. So get ready for that. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Like I said, comment below with any extra questions you may have. Subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Instagram at Anne's Family Recipe. Give this video a thumbs up, all the things. And I'll see you again soon. Bye.